What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 164 of Littleroot Lessons. As always, I'm your host, Carter Noble, and joined with us is our fantastic co-host, Carl Wilkins. What's up, dude?
I was gonna say, you about flubbed that one up again.
Look, I was gonna say something about, back this week, blah, 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 but whatever. It's fine.
I am happy to be back. Thanks for asking.
I didn't, but okay.
I enjoyed editing the episode of you and Bauerdad talking over a match. That was kind of fun.
Dude, it was really fun to do. And I know you and I have kind of talked about it a little bit. And just I really enjoyed doing commentary, even if it's just post-commentary like that was.
Yeah.
Finding stuff to do commentary over is fun.
Yeah, we've done it before with draft league stuff,
mm-hmm.
and that was always fun. So I couldn't imagine a high skill VGC game like that would be terribly hard to do comparison wise.
Not only was it not hard to do, but it was also a very fun match. The teams are very fun as well, so it's just everything about it was just a good time. And of course, there's super high level play at an event like this, and you have two very, very good players on camera at the same time, and it was just a good time. Yeah. If y'all haven't watched last week's episode, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, definitely go watch it. Listening to it's a little weird if you're just listening on the audio side. That's what I definitely would recommend going and watching, because it has the match up on the screen and everything for you to follow along with.
Would agree.
So I guess we're going to talk actual EUIC data this week, because you guys didn't really get to touch on it at all last week, and there's a lot to unpack with 700 plus players and things like that.
So, we didn't get to really touch on it last week because when we recorded, it was still going on. And so, now we have a week post, and so we can actually go in and talk about it. So, what are we thinking?
Palafin, Tinglu, whatever is very good.
Hey, did you know that Palafin is good?
Yeah, did you know Fluttermane is the new Incineroar?
For now, until Incineroar comes back.
Man, even if Incineroar comes back, I don't think it's gonna help.
I know I kind of did it a little bit last week. I was running calcs of Incin, and it's just oh yeah, this just doesn't matter.
My big things about Incineroar is it would make certain matchups for that squad better, because you just slot it into the Arcanine slot. A lot of problems are solved that you kind of have issues with, and it becomes this really scary core. But I don't know if Incineroar does enough to warrant that swap, because I think Arcanine does some really cool things on those teams specifically with Howl and Will-O-Wisp and things like that, where with Incineroar you're kind of locked into playing Dark move, Fire move, Parting Shot, Fake Out, right?
Alright, so I'm looking now, and this was a set that I don't know, I have in the Picolytics calculator for some reason. This is 252 HP, 84 special defense Impish. Moonblast from Timid. Timid Fluttermane does 41 to 49%.
Okay, make it a choice specs and make it modest.
Let's see, specs, modest. 67 to 80%.
That is a lot.
To be fair,
for a neutral hit, that is a lot.
Let's see. This is also 4 HP, no additional bulk. Flare Blitz is 62% to KO with basically no investment.
Yeah,
so,
but then you gotta think about they have their own Intimidate most of the time on these teams, and then you got Palafin. You have to worry about staying across from you, because even if you Intimidate it, you still get bopped. I don't think Incineroar is gonna come in and fix any of that fix that matchup any.
Dude, that's the crazy part is, like, let's see. Let's turn this to Wave Crash.
I just had a revelation. You talk about your thing here, and I'll talk about mine here in a minute.
Wave Crash for this is a blank set. What are we doing?
I don't know. You're the one who's using the calculator.
Adamant 252 Palafin at -1. Wave Crash does 74 to 87 to
Casual, almost Oko, like
while intimidated, yes.
And now slap Terra Water onto it.
Oh yeah. Hold on. It's an Oko, I bet.
I'm pretty sure it is.
It's a roll.
It's still a much better. At
87% roll, but it's a roll.
At -1, you have a better shot of KOing Incineroar than most Pokemon do.
And mind you, that's not Mystic Water, so.
Oh, so that odds of that is just like 100%.
Jet Punch is a 2-hit KO.
Yeah, after an Intimidate.
Absurd, just absolute absurdity.
That's...
Jet Punch, if you're not Terra'd, is like 25% to KO, like 2-hit KO.
Goodness.
Incin is the Mon we need.
Yeah, sure. Give me Rillaboom.
I was running. That was my next run.
At this point, I want Rillaboom with Grassy Glide back, just so we can have a check for Palafin.
What's the typical Palafin set?
Oh goodness, it's like...
Do you know this off the top of your head?
44 defense and some number of HP. I think it's like 120 HP investment and then 44 defense or something like that. I think that's the bulkiest you're gonna get.
Grassy Glide is not an Oko.
That's good to know.
It's 31% to Oko.
Is that Miracle Seed or what? Is that no item?
That's Adamant Miracle Seed.
Okay, cool. I'm about to say, you kind of want that.
So if we Terra Grass,
gonna bop them.
Terra Grass Miracle Seed is a roll with 0 investment.
That's hilarious.
Good lord, this is absurd. I miss Rillaboom.
It's hilarious. It's like we were just talking about, like, Inteleon's coming through raids back to the game, and like Rillaboom's like right behind it. Rillaboom won't have Grassy Glide, obviously, but
oh no. Anyway,
I'm interested to see how Regulation D, E, or whatever changes. Like once we get like the other starters in, I think Rillaboom becomes an automatic like plug and play kind of Pokemon, just because it gives you that fake out and whatnot in that slot. But it'll be interesting to look at that format once it happens and kind of see what's going on.
See, now I'm curious how much Rillaboom does into Flutter Mane.
I would say a chunk.
Woodhammer's an Oko. Grassy Glide is a roll. But that's Assault Vest. Miracle Seed is an Oko.
Yeah. Goodness.
Granted, we don't have Grassy Terrain. We don't have Grassy Glide. But, you know, if we did, we found our Flutter Mane answer. Until, you know, they swap in Arcanine and intimidate us and then
make
we're
us sad. But then we have Palafin out next to it.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. Woodhammer's still an Oko. Like, it's not even like...
I need Assault Vest Rillaboom back in the format, please. Just give me Assault Vest
I'm looking to
back.
see if we can KO at -1 with Assault Vest.
Give me Assault Vest Rillaboom back,
yes, we can.
please.
It's guaranteed.
Cool. Give me this Pokemon back so I can have a strong check to Palafin, Tinglu, and Flutter Mane.
Dude, this is absurd.
It would solve the problem.
Granted, Flutter Mane is very bad like physically defensive. Like, we know this.
Yeah.
But this is a -1 Woodhammer.
Oh.
Dude, even without terrain, it's a roll. What?
I just like I want the bulky pivot meta to come back, and we're kind of into that now with Regulation C as these like teams get more solidified. We're starting to see like Palafin and Amoonguss and Tinglu and other stuff. But I liked the Series 12 format where it's just like a bunch of pivots and getting into position, and we're getting back to that in this format, which is nice, in my opinion.
It's really weird though, right? Like we're getting there. Like if you look at these teams from if you look at the top 8 teams from EUIC, it's just like Amoonguss, Intimidator, and then like Palafin is on half of them. You have half of them with Palafin, the other half with Bundle.
Yep.
And then you have Dozo mixed in there. Man, Rillaboom would be so freaking good. It's absurd. Just looking at all these water types and you're just like, Dozo does, like, Rillaboom doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. I miss it.
It's interesting to look at this top 8 and see is like what made it. Like Tinglu in top first 2 here, and then Dozo 3 and 4, and then like here's all the Goldango and other nonsense through 5 through 8. You can see people are trying to break the Palafin balance core. I don't know if they're going to have time to do that though.
So I ran another calc for you.
Okay.
Rillaboom.
Uh-huh.
At neutral.
Okay.
Woodhammer into Grassy Glide. Oko's +2 Dozo.
It's too bad we don't get Grassy Glide back.
I mean, okay, you would have to be a very fast Rillaboom to be able to outspeed Dozo at +2.
Yeah.
Is it actually possible? I don't think it's actually possible.
I think most Dozo try to get to like 150 or something after +2. I don't remember.
To be fair, this is max speed Dozo, which like is not going to be something you run into, right?
I don't think that's super common. I don't remember what I was doing with Dozo beforehand.
Well, max speed Rillaboom's 150. So even if they're getting like they're going to be able to outspeed you if they want. Oh man, this is absurd. Just fake out into Woodhammer Grassy Glide you.
Most Rillaboom never got faster than 120. And and Dozo at +2 easily beats that.
Oh yeah.
But the revelation I had as we were talking about it, when Incineroar is not in the format, Fairy type, there's always a Fairy type atop the chart.
Which is weird, right?
Like if you go back to Sword and Shield era, Togekiss was the top used Pokemon for a very long time until Incineroar got added to the game.
So I want to go back even farther. Let's see. When did Hidden Ability starters come out in Gen 7? Was that in 2017?
You're asking the wrong person.
I don't think so, because Arcanine's the most played Pokemon. Followed by Tapu Koko.
Hey, look, a Fairy type.
Let's see. In the top 6, let's see. It's Arcanine, Koko, Kartana, P2, Garchomp, Feeny, Lele. So you have 3 fairies in the top 7.
And then Incineroar comes around, and I think...
And then 2018 happens, and you get Lando Incineroar.
Hey, look, Intimidate. I'm not sure if it's actually like any kind of correlation between like having Incineroar in the format or not. It's just something I realized is like we were talking about, or like this format is like, oh, Flood remains the most used Pokemon going into this regulation, and if you go back to the early formats for Sword and Shield, Togekiss had very similar numbers in usage, was pretty close to being 70% on teams, just because it was a great Dynamax option. It had Follow Me, it had utility, it pretty much did it all. And Fluttermane in this case is just like a very strong Pokemon that just hits everything really hard, because that's what's more valuable right now.
Mm-hmm.
That, and you only have like 2 actual weaknesses in Ghost and Steel.
Fluttermane's so freaking good, man. And like Palafin is absurd. Just like playing with this core, it's just like I really enjoy playing with most of them. Like I'll be blunt, I don't really enjoy the play patterns of Amoonguss. I don't know, it's just me, and I know it's just a me issue. I don't feel like I play Amoonguss well.
Amoonguss just puts you in positions to win games you probably shouldn't most of the time.
I mean, yes, like being able to just like redirect or spore and then like be able to pivot out, get your health back, come back in, pollen puff your partner, be able to regenerate them. Like I understand why it's good, right? And like I've learned to respect it a ton in team building and like playing. But like in practice, I feel like I suffer so much in playing it.
Yeah. Amoonguss is definitely something that if you're like a very aggressive player, Amoonguss isn't for you.
Correct. And as we know,
Carter,
given the option of playing, bulky defensive pivot-based games or clicking the super effective button,
you're going to click the super effective button every time. I'm just looking through like usage for pairs and stuff. Most common pairing, Fluttermane and Amoonguss at 385. That would mean that's almost half of the total teams played at EUIC had Fluttermane and Amoonguss.
Just absurd. Genuinely absurd with how much it's just like how playable it is.
For reference, if you go down to the next most common pairing of Arcanine and Fluttermane, it's 33% of the whole meta for EUIC. And then you kind of just trickle on down. Almost all of the Palafin that were at EUIC were paired with an Amoonguss. Almost all the Palafin that were at EUIC were paired with a Fluttermane. It's the Palafin balance core is so like prevalent. It's such a good like team. I would almost go out and say that it's chalk levels of competitive right now.
So like you're not wrong, right? But like here's the thing about chalk. It was really good. But it wasn't the only thing you could play, right?
I mean,
I say that as like it dominated that format, right?
Like, so the thing with that format is that was a year-long format. You had to adapt to it to figure out how to beat it, because otherwise you're going to be losing to it all year.
Correct. And like that's the thing is about that format versus 2015 versus 2023 Regulation C. This format's not lasting for a year.
Yeah.
If you don't like the format,
come back at the end of June.
Yeah, you don't really have to. I don't want to say it like this, but like you don't have to adapt. You can just wait it out. That being said, I would highly recommend you get reps against this, because it's probably something that's going to continue to be good into the next format too.
I would be on the couch. If you can't beat him in this situation, join him.
Yeah,
I think it's.
I understand these mirrors are probably miserable to play, but like you're gonna have to get good eventually, right?
This is the situation of what we ran into in Sword and Shield when we were having the series change like every couple months. Is someone would find this really strong team, this really strong identity, and people would play that for the entirety of the format because there's not enough time to really get into, oh, I need to figure out how to beat this Pokemon team. It's just not worth the effort because the format rotates in 2 or 3 months. I think at this point in after EUIC, if you don't have a strong plan to beat Palafin Balance, you should just be playing Palafin Balance.
Yeah.
Like, it resembles so much of, like, what Chalk was doing. You have these 5 Pokemon and then your Techmon for the mirror. And in the case of Paul Chua, they brought Roaring Moon. In the case of Gabriel Agati, they brought Baxcalibur.
Yep.
Like, both great options. Both do amazingly different things. I'm going to be straight up honest. Just play Palafin Balance if you're going to go play in an event somewhere in the next couple months. It's not worth it to try and reinvent the wheel for a format that you're only going to be playing a couple more events in. It's just not worth it, in my opinion.
And this is something that in a format like this where there's a clear best team, I really like to experiment, and that's something that I'm trying to do with like the laddering videos is like showcase other Pokemon that are less played but probably could be played right now, right? Like this week was Sylveon, and like it was fine. Like
yeah.
I'll be honest with you, like it wasn't great, but it's really because its bulk wasn't what it needed to be. That being said, Sylveon was really good at like doing its thing, right? Like if its thing was click quick attack into Gurdua, it did that.
Yeah.
Like that's what it needed to do. But man, 65 physical defense is just really bad in a format where you have Ting-Lu, you have let's see, Ting-Lu, Dragonite, Xianpao, Arcanine, Palafin.
You say that, but then there's things like Fluttermane running around with 55 base defense, and it's doing great. So it's more about where it's sitting speed-wise in this situation more than its defense.
That's the other thing, right? Like, Fluttermane has a base 135 speed as opposed to Sylveon's 60. So, like, when you can make up for the lack of bulk if you're doing something that's unique. And Sylveon, if it's up against, like, a Fluttermane, you can sit in front of it because you have a base 130 special defense.
Yeah.
And, like, you can Terra and be able to hit them with, like, a Terra Blast and do damage to them that way. But, like, overall, it's, like, kind of whatever. And I think this next week I'm going to try to do something with Scizor. I think Scizor has some unique things going about it. It can punch really hard. It reminds me a lot of what you're doing with like Palafin and this like Black Glasses King Gambit of just like priority move Terra plus stat boosting or like type boosting item.
Scizor will be interesting, mainly just because steel types aren't that great right now in general.
And like the big problem there is like Arcanine is one of the best Pokemon, being able to be the best Intimidator in the format. You're 4 times weak to it. It can hit you for super effective damage. You're weak to it because you're a physical attacker. Like there's just a lot that goes wrong, right?
Here's
that
another
being
thing.
said,
like
go ahead. Yeah,
Palafin is also insanely. It's just a check for against you. It resists all your steel type moves that you're wanting to hit into other stuff, so it's a great pivot Pokemon into you. It's faster than you naturally, so Jet Punch is going to hit you before your Bullet Punch goes off. Added to the fact that the team has things like Ting-Lu and Amoonguss to just soak up all your attacks. I think the jury's going to be out on Scizor for a little while, but I am not hopeful for it, unfortunately.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not either. But it's unique, and I want to play it. So, if I can have a like somewhat competent team and have good games with it. That's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
If it makes for good content, then who cares? And that's the thing is, man, it could either be really good or it's going to be terrible, and people are going to see why it's not played. There is no in between on this one, man.
I'm looking for Sizor in this giant sheet that I have.
Is it the Let me actually download it because I don't have it downloaded.
I found it. It had a team in 21st place, with it. The most common Terra type for it was Fire at EUIC with 20. Next was Water with 8. 2 were Steel. 1 was Rock, and then 1 was Flying.
There's 32 Scizors?
Yes.
Like clear amulet makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
like, we just talked about
what I was about to say. Is like the most common item being clear amulet or life orb, both of which are just good ways to kind of ignore intimidate in a way. Mm-hmm. And then there's like assault vest, metal coat, a smattering of other items. What gets
I think clear amulet is probably the way to go. Just because of like how the format is right now. It's really hard to justify being a steel type. Like, as weird as that sounds in a format dominated by, a fairy. Like, a fairy that is weak to physical attacks. You don't need all the extra, like, damage from bullet punch, right? It's going to be enough.
What would be interesting to do is maybe an Assault Vest Terra water build so you can live hits more effectively.
See, something like that is really interesting because then you're able to hit Arcanine back with like Terra Blast, and you resist everything coming off from Palafin.
I could see that being the play, being the line. You have U-turn or pounce or whatever bug type move you want to do to hit your problematic grass type Pokemon. You have close combat
you
to
also
just
get Trailblaze.
I think everything in the game gets Trailblaze. I'll be honest.
You're not wrong.
I think everything gets Trailblaze, which is hilarious and weird. Chilling Water is the other move. It's like a lot of things just randomly get Chilling Water for some reason. I never understood why that was a common thing.
Why does Chansey and Blissey get Trailblaze?
Same reason
What?
everything else does.
Oh, good lord, this list is absurd.
So there's a unique tech thing that Sizor can do for you in Quick Guard in the against the Chien Pao Dragonite team.
Dude, I really like Serena in that slot. Like, it was really good this past week for laddering.
That's literally all its job was to do was like, you can't e-speed me, I'm going to get to do my thing. Oh. Here's a fun tidbit. Most common item at EUIC was safety goggles. That was the most common item used, was safety goggles.
That's really interesting.
It just tells you how strong Amoonguss is, right? Like, Spore, Rage Powder, shenanigans.
I mean, it's really good.
Yeah.
Amoonguss is really good. Having something that can just be essentially a direct counter to it seems really good.
I know we talked about the Palance team a ton here. I want to talk about these Dozo teams that are like 3rd and 4th.
Do your thing, man.
They're when I was doing the deep dive, I was like looking at them and I realized that they were exactly the same team, just organized differently. They are the exact same team, just organized in different ways.
What do you mean?
So it's all of the same 6, mostly all the same items.
Yeah, okay.
So third, they both managed to make top 8. I don't think they built together though, because they would have listed them in the same order, right?
Well, I mean, probably.
And I think there was a few differences between them, but not a ton.
Let's see. Alexander played Choice Band Dragonite, whereas Joan played Lumberry.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Both are Assault Vest Glamora, Booster Bundle, Lefty's Dozo.
Like, those are all the common items.
That's the difference. That's the difference, is their Dragonite items
were swapped.
And then, as a result, they have Earthquake versus Protect on Dragonite.
Yep.
Couple different attacks.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
that's what led me to believe that like they didn't build the team together, because there is some differences between them. Whereas, like, if you usually they are almost
real
spot
close.
on, like, with each other, which was very interesting. It's just like two people came to that conclusion, most likely separately.
The only differences are like 2 attacks and 1 item.
Yeah. And so it's interesting to see that, like, Dozo ended up 3rd and 4th in this event after having a real rough time in the previous Regulation C events. So it's kind of cool to see it come back and actually do something, especially after all of the bug fixes and things like that.
Dude, even their Terra types are all the same.
I told you.
Nope. Dragonites are different.
Yeah.
We have normal versus flying.
Because the Assault Vet, I'm assuming the Choice Band one is the normal.
Yes.
And then Lumberry would be flying.
So, Dragonite's Terra type is different. Dragonite's item is different. And then Glamora is Energy Ball versus Sludge Bomb. That's it. There are 3 differences.
It's like one of those newspaper comics. It's like you try to spot the differences between the teams.
It's Spider-Man. It's the Spider-Man meme, right?
Everybody pointing at each other, yeah. It was just an interesting oddity that they both came up with pretty much the same 6, but had slight differences from each other.
Yep.
Another big thing is, like, Goldango's back on the rise, which is interesting. Like, you'd think, like, Ting Lu would just, like, keep it down, and I guess in a way it did.
Yeah.
Like, none of them cracked the top 4. So that tells me that it's just like, well, Goldango's there, but it's not doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how many there were total.
I'm sure it's not too far off, right?
Goldango had 43 copies at EUIC. The majority of them being Terra Water with leftovers as the most common item.
Okay. Interesting.
The next most common item was Choice Specs at 12, Citrus Berry at 6, so on and so forth.
Very, very interesting.
So, not quite the showing that Goldango used to have. It definitely has fallen off hard as the format has adapted. People have kind of gotten used to what Goldango can do. There's not really like any kind of weird tricks to it anymore. It's just like, oh, this thing just clicks Make It Rain all the time, or it's got like Terra Water or Terra Steel. We know what to expect from it, especially in open team sheet formats. So there's no like gotcha anymore for it.
Which, man, the more I've played open team sheet, the more I can't believe we didn't do this years ago.
Right?
Like,
it's so nice.
It is so much better. Like, I enjoy laddering, right? And I enjoy running into the occasional meme where it's just like, I didn't see this coming. How could anyone ever anticipate this?
The clickbait, the content, like that's what that's for.
Yeah.
It's not really that fun to have everything face value while you're playing, and and then try to like make decisions, because then everything's a little bit more streamlined. It's just like, oh, these are their potential options, and this is all they can really do. So I can plan around that.
When you're playing like high stakes, being able to eliminate the what ifs is really really nice.
That I think this is why we've seen a lot more consistency at the top. Like, we've seen a lot of the same names over the course of all these events. Think like Joe UX9, Paul Chua. A lot of them have been like at the top or near the top of all of these events since we started doing Scarlet and Violet VGC with the open team sheets. And that's kind of like where it's gotten to the point of it's a skill-based game now. Not so much a got you, ha 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 kind of factor. Which I think is nice. For a Pokemon, for a game that has as much RNG in it as like Pokemon does, having a little bit of skill put back into it with that open team sheet, it helps us out a lot.
It's really nice. I will be the first to admit that.
Okay, so I'm gonna open up this combinations sheet, and I'm gonna tell you how common Palafin balance is. You ready?
Insanely.
Of the 700 something teams, 15% of them contained Amoonguss, Arcanine, Fluttermane, Palafin, Tinglu. That is 122 teams of the 700 plus teams in the event. For reference, the next highest combo contains 4 of the same Pokemon plus King Gambit and is only 7% of the meta of the format there.
Good lord.
If you're looking for specifically the Arcanine, Amoonguss, Fluttermane, Palafin, Tinglu stuff, the most common partners were King Gambit, Baxcalibur, and then I think Dragapult. It just shows you like how cool and strong that Palafin balance core is, and I'm not sure there's a way to beat it. Not consistently. Like the fact that the core is 5 Pokemon instead of 4 is a huge thing, right? So having that 5th Pokemon be part of that core means that you have extra resistances for certain Pokemon in certain places. And you can kind of use that to play mind games on your opponent instead of like, here's the 4 that's really good and then here's my 2 Techmons. That kind of get swapped in and out. No, I have 5 Pokemon that can come to pretty much every single game. And if you bring the wrong Pokemon thinking I brought something else, you're not beating me this game. It becomes such a skill-based matchup. Especially the mirrors. The mirrors are huge when it comes to just like testing skill and reading abilities of your opponents and such. I feel like you've checked out on me.
No, it's just I'm trying to debate this. And like I can't, right? Like you're right. Like the team is absurd and there's a reason it continues to do good. I always like in my head I'll play like while I'm walking to work or like doing some mindless mind-numbing stuff. I'll do these little games in my head where it's just like, okay, how can I break this team? What can I put on my team to help this matchup out? I'm gonna tell you straight up, I've been trying to break Palafin balance for weeks now. There's no one consistent way to do it. And like that's the thing that's like really obnoxious is it's so good.
So like we talked about King Gambit, we talked about like Baxcalibur and all these. The most common ones I'm seeing for like as Techmons are Dragon types or Steel types usually in that last 6th slot. kind of filling out your fantasy core a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think Max Caliber shows the most promise in the mirror because Max Caliber having that ice coverage hits Amoonguss, hits Tinglu. You have decent coverage in other places. You got Terra for that Pokemon. It hits like a truck anyway. Like you have thermal exchange to eat fire type attacks, so you have some bonuses there. So it's kind of cool. But there's not just like one good way to beat this, because if you find an answer to, say, a specific lead, you need that specific lead to be on the front. Otherwise, the team just demolishes you because you led for Fluttermane Palafin and they led Arcanine Amoonguss. And now you can't beat that because you just got essentially stalled out and lost your answer, and then they get to bring in the damage from the back and clean up.
Yeah. And it's just like you said earlier, it's just like, you know, if you can't beat them, just join them, right? And I'm never a person to play the best thing for the sake of doing good, right?
Yeah.
Like I've always wanted to be the person who tries to break it or do something unique, and I'm gonna continue to do that because it's my thing, right? Like that's how I always have been, and eventually I'll get to that point where I'm just like, I keep losing to this, time to go play it, right? Like I it doesn't matter what it is, I always get to that point eventually. Just, you know, give me another month and then I'll just be tired of losing to it.
I'm about to say, I don't know how many more games you're going to want to lose to it and then decide to pick it up. I can't think of, like, I can only have good things to say about it because I know the team is so good. Just because I've spent the better part of the last month trying to figure out if I can break it and try to figure out a combination of things that'll take it out and deal with it. There's just no common weakness. Does that make sense?
Correct.
Like,
yes.
So you, like, if you look at it, like, start breaking it down on paper. So you have Arcanine and Tinglu have a shared weakness to water. Well, guess what? There's a dragon type, a water type, and a grass type that all resist water. So that's out. You have common weakness for Tinglu and Palafin is grass. Well, there's a dragon, a grass type, and a fire type. You can't safely bring it.
Yep.
You have to be able to outspeed Fluttermane. That's not happening. Not normally, anyway.
No, it is a rock and a hard place to outspeed, to try to outspeed Fluttermane. And you know, what's crazy is the lack of, like, the true lack of Trick Room in this format has been so surprising. It's just like a form of speed control against these fast teams. I don't know.
So that's the other thing. It's deceptively fast, but it's not. Arcanine, not known for being the speedy thing. They don't probably put a ton of speed investment into it. Tinglu is base 55.
Even if they do, right? Like, even if Trick Room does go up, they still have just priority moves and Jet Punch and E-Speed.
They don't care.
Like, it just doesn't matter.
They don't care. That's why I had, like, Farigiraf on my top of my list of, like, this thing's going to be great in Regulation C because it actually can do the Trick Room thing and make it successful. Because you get to prevent the priority moves and set up Trick Room.
And it's also a normal type to be able to switch in on Fluttermane's, like, Shadow Balls, right? But, like, I don't know.
Then you just get bopped by Moonblast and you feel bad.
I mean, yes, correct.
There's just no good way to go about it, like, just from a team building perspective. You literally just have to outplay them. You have to get them pinned, get them on their back foot, and, like, get lucky that you taken out Palafin, and then you take out Fluttermane. Once those two are down, the team's probably fairly easy to get through because it's like Arcanine and Amoonguss, or Tinglu and Amoonguss, and you can kind of whittle through that a little bit. But the team's got such a great way to play. I can play slow, I can play fast, I can priority you into the dirt, I can run you down on turn 1 and take double KO, and now you're just sitting there dumbfounded because you lost both your Pokemon on turn 1.
Yep.
There's just no significant way to beat this team. And I know we've been talking about this for like the last 40 minutes. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Like,
we haven't seen this since 2015. Something has not been this good.
So, like, there's the argument of, like, oh, Crystal Rain was good, but it wasn't this good.
Yeah.
Like, the Swordfish teams in Sword and Shield were, like, they were good, but at the same time, like, there was so much innovation with those teams. And, like, the pure lack of innovation with these teams is, like you said, essentially it's one mon difference between these teams. And it's just like, all right, what dragon or steel type do I want to play?
Like, I would compare, like, Rinya's Sun to being really close to this. But Rinya's Sun wasn't flexible. Rinya's Sun had to have all 6 members of that squad together to be, like, a significant team. And if so that one, it's much easier to kind of flowchart and plan that out because you know that there's these 6. There's this group that does this thing. There's this group on that team that does that thing. And you can plan around that depending on, like, what you have on your team. That information of whatever, like, I have Roaring Moon, Baxcalibur, King Gambit, Dragapult, whatever, in that last slot changes the whole dynamic so quickly because it's just like, I have a plan that I can beat Roaring Moon. Well, I can't hit Dragapult because it's a ghost type.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a plan that'll beat Baxcalibur. Nope, it's a steel type.
Yep.
Can't, I don't have a way to beat that. So, the Techmon makes this matchup so much harder to, like, flowchart out because it can be literally anything.
Yep.
I'm waiting for the mashup of, like, Qianpao Dragonite and these Palafin Balance teams to kind of come together. Because I think that's the next step. I think that's the next tier up for the squad is just, like, the way you're going to beat the mirror is you lean into the hyper offense more. You lean into that very strong lead of Qianpao plus very powerful physical attacker. And you're able to hit Palafin, you're able to hit Fluttermane, you're able to play through Intimidate. And it doesn't matter. I think that's the next step.
Yep.
And whether that physical attacker is Dragapult, Dragonite, Roaring Moon, Baxcalibur, King Gambit, whatever it is. I think that's the next iteration. You probably drop specifically... I don't even think you have to drop anything. You just take your tech slot and slot that into Qianpao because you have Palafin sitting next to you. I think that's it.
So after playing with it this week for laddering, I've come to the conclusion that Chiyu's not very good.
Chiyu has very specific teams that it likes to be on, specifically Dondozo.
And, like, man, when it's good, it's very good, but you can't swap it in.
No, God, no. No. Its job is to to be on the battlefield, pick up at least 1 KO, and go down. That's its job.
And, like, the one game I did play with it was, it came in, it burnt Dragonite, and then died. And, like, it won me that game because the Dragonite was burned, but, man, it was just not what you would expect, right? Right? So.
Yeah. And, like, if you think about, like, what it's doing, it has one of the worst coverage pools of the Ruinous Pokemon. Like, it's literally Fire, Dark, and Psychic. I think it also has Hex. But unless you're doing some cheeky thing with, like, Lava Plume, Most of the time, you're just clicking Dark Pulse or Overheat, and neither of those moves are great into the Palafin balance teams. Because you're only hitting one of them super effective damage, and it's a Moongus. Like, that's the only thing you're hitting for super effective damage there, with specifically Overheat. You're getting outsped by Fluttermane, and it just bops you most of the time. I don't see a... I just don't see a world where Chi-Yu's, like, anything great. I think Qian Pao and Ting Lu end up being, like, the super good ones. And then, like, Wo-Chien and Chi-Yu kind of just fade out until the format changes and they can actually, like, be viable Pokemon again.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's weird.
That and Fire Dark, like, we know Incineroar is, like, it's weak to ground, it's weak to fighting, it's weak to water. Well, guess what? ground and water's pretty common.
Yep.
And you're not very bulky to begin with. So you have a lot of weaknesses that are common, and you're not bulky like Incineroar was to take advantage of it.
Correct.
Can we talk about the fall off of Tailwind? We talked about Trick Room just like not being existent. Tailwind also has kind of fallen off the face of the earth.
Agreed. Yes.
Like, your best Tailwind setter is specifically Talonflame right now, and it sucks because just like Extreme Speed beats you.
Yep.
You just lose to Extreme Speed Dragonite and or Arcanine, which you get to know it's coming. Like, you get to see that.
Correct.
But if your plan is to have Tailwind up to beat that matchup, good luck.
Right?
Good luck. I've been seeing a lot of, like, Tailwind on non-priority setters, things like Roaring Moon, Corviknight, Iron Jugulis was another one that's kind of common. I've been seeing that more in the format, which is cool. I think that's nice. I know Corviknight's, like, high on your list of, like, this is a really cool Pokemon. It's got really cool options, and it does stuff that's not, like, most Pokemon don't do. It's really interesting because, like, you're immune to all the ground-type moves from Ting Lu.
Yep.
You get to body press them into oblivion. The only Pokemon you're really scared of is, like, specifically Arcanine and Chi-Yu. Which, at that point, just run away. You can just pivot out and they'll be fine. Maybe Corviknight's just, like, the hidden gem that ends up making a team that works against the Palafin balance core.
Corviknight was fun. I really enjoyed playing it, man. There was one instance where it could have been bad as my only Mon against exactly Fluttermane, but it didn't happen. So
yeah, I think in the future, Ironhead, Roost, Body Press, Iron Defense is the line. I don't think Tailwind's worth it on Corviknight, unfortunately. If you want to play it, I think you play Ironhead and you play Body Press.
Yep.
Because I think having that Body Press on that Pokemon is super important.
I agree. It's really good. I think it's super, super underrated. And, like, the fact that, like you said, you get to sit in front of things, you get to click Iron Defense, and then they die.
Yeah, it's just like you get Iron Defense and you can Roost. And, like, honestly, putting, like, a Ting Lu next to that Pokemon is probably just amazing. Like, then you don't have to worry about any special attackers, like, as much. You can calc things to live certain hits that way.
You're thinking.
I'm trying to, like, plan out, like, what it could look like in my head, because you want to be able to outspeed Palafin and hit it. You want to be able to not care as much about Fluttermane and take care of it, which Corviknight does that for you. You need to be able to beat Ting Lu successfully Because if you let it sit on the field for too long, it's just going to fissure hit you and whittle you down. Corviknight does that to an extent. It's not completely impervious because Tinglu has Ruination and can have your HP in one go. So you're definitely kind of looking to find a secondary answer to Tinglu, which would probably be like your own Palafin or Baxcalibur.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the big ones on the Palafin balance team to answer it. Palafin technically is a great answer for Arcanine. Corviknight can kind of check Amoonguss depending on your moveset. Honestly, I wouldn't worry about Amoonguss as much if you have something like a Safety Goggles Fire type of some sort, or Terra Flying something. I don't know. Dragonite might be an option.
Terra Flying's interesting. I will be the first to admit that.
I wonder if like Terra Flying Scizor does something significant.
That's.
We'll have to look into that.
Maybe?
We'll have to look into that when we start building your Scizor team.
For sure. It is something that will be on the list of things to work on, right?
Yeah. Like you've already said you want to try Scizor next, so that's like on my mind as the next thing we're going to be building. I know you talked about Gastrodon too. Everybody seems to be very high on Gastrodon because it's like, oh, it's a Palafin check. I'm like, that's great and all, but they carry other moves beside Water type.
It's a Palafin check till it's not.
Yeah, I'm about to say it's fine until you're not fine, and then you're just like, well, I'm sad.
That's a very accurate like depiction. It's just, well, I guess I'm sad now.
Like, if Gastrodon starts to become popular, Amoonguss starts carrying Seed Bomb again, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, well, now I have to worry about that as a Gastrodon, and then you play around that. Or if something just happens to be Terra Grass, you're just like, oops.
Well, guess I die. So, like, the short list right now of things I want to play for laddering is, like, it was Sylveon, Scizor, Gastrodon. Because I think all of them have some type of, like, unique, like, position in this format. Mm-hmm. Just kind of looking past that.
Leave your comments down below of things you want Carter to play with.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always looking for suggestions.
Call to action. Get it done, guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's, like, the truest thing we can say, right? Is, like, what do people want to see played? So...
I'm waiting for someone to put Dondozo.
Sure.
Is it out of the mainstream enough for you to play it now?
I mean, I've played it, right?
You've told me multiple times you will never play Dondozo.
I swear I've played it.
I don't think you ever did.
Alright, pulling up the YouTube.
I don't remember. I tried to get you to play it.
That was also, like, early on when it was, good.
I don't think you ever played Dozo.
I swear I did, but I don't know. Yeah, I have. It was episode 3. So that would have been, 4 months ago.
Was that when we were still playing on Showdown?
No, this is on cart. There's a rental code from... Oh, this is a Cybertron team.
So you haven't actually played real Dondozo. You played the super early...
I mean, this is substitute lefties Dozo.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
No, not anymore, but back then that's what they did.
You didn't get to experience Fissure Dozo either?
Nope.
Sad.
I haven't clicked Fissure anything yet.
Sad. Okay. What else you want to talk about?
I really got a whole lot of nothing else to say.
Advance Wars is great, if anybody's wondering. Go pick it up.
I've been playing a lot of Snap still.
I got my Advance Wars pre-order fulfilled finally after 2 years. I'm on mission 10. I didn't have a whole lot of time to play it, unfortunately, but
you'll have plenty of time coming up.
I've got Unite back on the grind again because we got a new battle pass started, so I've been playing that a lot lately. And when I'm not playing video games, it's getting ready for baby to be here.
I am ranked 65 this season.
That is much higher than I am on Snap. I stopped buying the battle pass. My goal is 70. I stopped buying the battle pass. It's just not worth it for me.
My goal is 70 this month. I know last month I think Casey got up to like 85 or something absurd. Like he was at like he was stuck at like 60 for a while. And then he messages me one day, he's like, so I'm in the 80s now.
Cool.
I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
But yeah, VGC
that's where I'm at.
I don't have anything to play for. I don't even have locals to go play in. So
I besides Snap, I started playing a lot of Pauper again online. Right now, I'm like 9-4, I think, in games, in matches.
That's not bad.
Yeah, my first 2 leagues were 4-1s, and then my current league I'm 1-3. So
womp womp.
Look, when they go Tron on 3, here's my 7-drop that gains me 6 life, and I'm playing an aggro deck. I'm like, I can't beat that. Got it.
Yeah. That's how it be sometimes.
So that was game 1. Game 2, and then game 3 is like, I just didn't have a fast enough hand. They're like, all right, well, here's my 7-drop. Here's another one. Like, all right, fine, you win.
Yep.
Gain your 12. You were at 1 this game, and now you're at 30 somehow.
You ready to get out of here?
I think so. I have dinner waiting for me, and then I'm going to bed, so...
I already ate dinner, so all I gotta do is play more Unite.
So, as always, everyone, make sure you go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe if you're over here on YouTube. Like we talked about, I'm looking for stuff to play for laddering, so tell me what mods you want to see, and
or
and
leave
we'll do
teams.
what we can. Unique stuff. I'm tired of seeing Palafin and Fluttermane and Arcanine and
Amoonguss and Ting Lu and
give me something that's not good.
Give them bad teams. Got it. Start getting Little Cup stuff out.
Oh, all right. Oh, we'll no. If you're not listening on YouTube, make sure you go check us out there. We have all kinds of stuff going up. All like three times a week. Is that right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Anything extra? Cool. Yeah, 2 or 3.
2 to 3 times a week.
Maybe 4. Who knows? But yeah, past that, you can always go ahead and follow us on Twitter. That is LRLessons. That is at LRLessons. Myself at Mr. Missouri 25. Carl's at Musical VGC. You can check us out both on Twitch as well at Mr. Missouri 25 and at Musical. Past that, come and hang out in the community Discord where you and what's our current number?
700.
You and 700 of your closest friends are going to get really well acquainted. Our server is great. I love every single person there, and it's amazing. So, if you are looking to be, better integrated in the VGC community, I cannot recommend our community enough. Past that, go ahead and check out the website, lrlessons.com. While you're there, you can check out the merch page while it's still up.
Yeah.
Until we get something else figured out, which we're working on. I say this every week, but we are actively working on it.
Yeah.
Tiff has ordered some samples from a couple other different companies, so now it's just like figuring out which.
We got to figure out what we like and what we don't like, and.
Yep. And as always, want to give a shout out to our $10 and up patrons. If you want to go ahead and support us, as always, you can go ahead over at patreon.com for as little as like 25 or 50 cents an episode. You can help keep our lights on and keep us happy, and pay for Carl's kid that's on the way.
Yeah.
Huge shout outs to Johnny Bravo Sr. and Papa Swish. And until next week, everyone, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you then. Have a good one. Peace.